Good afternoon and welcome to Fitch Painting and Repairs Garage. Today's project, we're going to work on the wife's 2007 Kawasaki Vulcan Classic 1500. Wife bought this bike brand new in 2007. She absolutely loves the ride on this bike. Softest, best stock seat ever, she says. We added the Quadzilla fairing on it. This was a takeoff off of another project bike that I had, Yamaha. It was a 2003 Yamaha Silverado. What was that bike? Tour Glide. I forget. Anyways, Yamaha's big touring bike, 1600. So this one here is pretty much all stock breather setup on it. This is a fuel injected bike. The only things that we've done to this bike is add these Cobra exhaust. It's got the long shotgun pipes on it, and we added this fairing. The wife put the bags on there a long time ago, and this is a takeoff off of one of the bigger Kawasaki bikes. My aunt and uncle gave me that seat, so I modified it to fit her bike. My little daughter who rides on the back with my wife, this is a ginormous seat. Her little tiny butt only comes to about here when she rides. She's 7 years old. She totally reaches the foot pegs and sits comfortably on it, but there's enough room for another person behind her. So it's pretty funny. So on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to do some modifications. We're going to go ahead. This bike has notorious problems with the cam chain tensioners. We're going to do an inspection on that. We are going to delete the air induction system on this bike and run just the stock filter setup on it. It helps with that. That's what causes that pop on these bikes, the air induction system. And what that air induction system is basically when you let off the throttle, it allows for the unspent fuel in the system to burn into the exhaust system by putting a bunch of cold, clean, fresh air into the system. And they're controlled by these reed valves, one located here on the front and all this piping. And here's a better look at this one. It's just a little series of reed valves and goes up through this pipe, goes on up. There's an easy way of overriding the system. It's called marbling. Basically, you have a hole on that pipe, and it's like here on the end of this flashlight. You take like a little marble and you wedge it down in there and you clamp it off, and it eliminates the air from getting into the system. And basically it just puts the unspent fuel right out the exhausts. And sometimes it'll burn depending on how hot the exhaust is on them, but usually it eliminates all that pop and cackle on decel or when you're shifting. And then we're going to go through, check out the front end suspension on this thing, possibly redo all the fork oil and everything in it, get that all set up and ready to go, maybe stiffen it up a little bit. And then we need to pull the fairing off, and we're going to paint the fairing. And she's just a black bike. Wife just wants it painted black, but we're going to put this little decal on here. She found, the wife's name is Miriam. My name is William. Both of our names end in IAM. We're going to put this on there. Transfer on, and it's going to mount on the front of the fairing. Basically clean, degrease, prep the surface, and then I will lay this decal down on it and then paint the entire fairing black. And then when I peel this decal off, it'll leave this color behind, and it'll show up in red instead of this blue. So that's the plan for the wife's bike. A couple other things, you know, we got the cam chain tensioners that I was talking about. They are notorious. You know, they're just a spring-loaded piston, ratcheting piston, you know, that drives out and puts tension against the chain. And they're just short. They're just too short. So There's a longer piston that you get, or an extension that you basically weld to the end of it. And honestly, I don't want to weld a little puck to the end of it because that could come loose and then go through the system, and I don't want to have that issue. So, best thing to do is pull it down, change the cam chains. A couple $100 a piece. You know, it's about $130 a piece for the cam chains on it if it's out of service. If not, possibly change the ratchet piston on it and change the puck and have it taken and milled and have a bigger, thicker one put on it. So we'll decide when we pull it all down what it's going to need to take care of it. We'll go through the process of this whole thing. That marbling procedure that I told you about. Inside this right hand side air box is your opening for your fuel injection system, and that's where that pipe comes in. And I don't know if I can see it, but there's a pipe that comes down right here into the system, and that's where the air gets in, and where it comes through the back of this breather plate, you basically pull that tube out, shove a big old marble down in it, clamp it off, maybe put some silicone on it, and it deletes that. What we're going to do is actually we're going to remove the reed valves off the motor and build a block that covers it up, put a brand new set of gaskets on it, seal it, and then remove all the hosing and piping. And there's a EOS electric operated switch right up in there, right there. There's a big old valve right there, switch on it. We'll delete that, pull that off of the system, pull the two valves off. Here is the tensioner that we're talking about for the cam chain. There's one here on this cylinder and one on the front cylinder. We'll go ahead and do that. And if we got to do the cam chains in this motor, I'll pull it down and pull the transmission out of it and have eliminate the neutral finder in it, and check all the bearings and check all that stuff in it, because these things are notorious for having transmission issues. And the wife has mentioned a couple times it popped out a gear on her in the neutral, and that's a sign that there's a problem with the transmission, particularly related to the shift fork that controls the second gear slider and the neutral finder bearings. You know, follow another video that I have on here. I don't know if I can link it. I'll have to look into that stuff. But anyways, you can go back through and look at the Vulcan 1999 Vulcan Drifter project I did, where I did the transmission in that, and we did the neutral finder removal. A series of 3 bearings, you know, on the shaft, on the output shaft, that keeps the second gear slider from sliding over on the shaft and engaging on the transmission, and won't allow it to shift above neutral, basically, unless the bike is in motion or the rear wheel's turning. And it's just a safety thing and help you get it in neutral. But the problem is if you're not going quite fast enough and you try to shift in second gear, then you have problems. It bends the shift forks, causes the slider to not slide all the way over and engage, which causes a little wear on the engagement surfaces, and basically the surface just wears off onto a slant, and then it just slips off every time it goes to engage. And you got to have that cut back and then milled so that it's a good solid surface and it engages solid. And so I had it done successfully on that drifter project. We'll see if we can find another machine shop that's capable of doing it, or we'll go back to the same guy and see if he can do it again with a little better communication. It did have some problems with the communication with the guy, but you know, he's a work from home kind of dude, you know, so we'll see in regards to that if we're going to use him or find another machine shop to do it. But he came highly recommended from a local factory dealership. So anyways, rambling on and on and on about what we're going to do to this bike. There's really not a whole lot we need to do to it. This bike is coming up on 50K, so we're going to do a big service on this one. Final drive fluid's going to get done. You know, we'll do all the other stuff first to find out if we're going to pull the motor and do the transmission work and all that other stuff on it. hopefully I don't have to do all that. Hopefully this motor's good, but this thing is, let's see here. How many miles are on this thing? 49,522. Just shy of 50K. So we'll do all the work on it that's necessary. But you know, she's a clean running bike. You know, no cosmetic issues on it. She's a little dirty. You know, probably need to replace these bags, give her something a little more substantial. Gonna have to have the seat redone. It's just, you know, 50,000 miles, you know, and all the age. She's just separating a little at the seam. You'll probably have that fixed pretty easy. Well, rest of the seat's in great shape. Fairing's in great shape. Engine's in great shape. Chassis in great shape. She runs great. Runs great. Absolutely love the bike. It's actually too comfortable for me. Causes me some lower back problems because it's a little bit soft. But the wife loves it. Absolutely loves it. Stay tuned.